Welcome to the next installment in the Tengu interview series, Hyping for Worlds. And today I'm joined by Jaina, one of, I would say, Tengu's longest running frontrunners. So, Jaina, beyond what I said, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I was playing Tengu back in the day. I didn't have the money for tour guides, but I did pretty decently at a local level, and I played a lot of Dueling Network. Did pretty well there. I have been a big fan of Heroes for a long time. I've won two Tengu tussles back to back. First time was with Hero, I believe, and the second time was with Macro. And that was fun. That's the only time Macro has topped, as far as I'm aware. I've also topped a bunch of other tournaments, although not a lot this year. I haven't been quite as active.
What did you qualify with, and did you pass down or gatekeep any event in addition to your qualification?
I qualified via ladder. I played mostly Hero, although I played a bit of TG. I don't think I dipped into anything else. Wasn't too hard, really. It wasn't very active. But I did later get second an event with Infernity. First time playing the deck was a lot of fun, so I passed down in that event.
And for the question that everyone is waiting for, and you can say yourself, who will win Worlds this year?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a decent chance, but if I wanted to place my money, I would probably say Hymne.
Five for five. If it isn't Hymna, then who?
Yeah. I think I don't know what to call him, but the guy who goes by Ichigo Kurosaki has a pretty solid chance too. And there's a lot of other strong contenders, but I'm not sure if Noelle is entering. I would bet a decent chunk on her if she were, but she does Yu-Gi-Oh very inconsistently. So sometimes she'll be in the tournaments and sometimes she won't be. And assuming Pro Storm makes it, he's a very, very, very good duelist. I don't know if he even knows about it. I'll make sure he does, but him winning is always a possibility in pretty much any tournament he enters.
Now we've had at least 3 years of retro play in Tengu, and I think that the format has changed quite a lot from the previous years to this year, or now the previous year. So how would you say that Tengu differs in 2025 compared to 2024?
Yeah, so for the longest time, I think there was a general understanding of plants and agents being about equal, and that was also based on historical data. I think plants outperformed agents by a little bit, but it's hard to say for sure without looking. Nowadays, I feel like agents have kind of centralized on a very nimble build. There's so little clutter, so few cards in there that you wouldn't just always run, and it just happens to be better, I think, than plants, like decidedly better. It's also a little bit easier to run, which always helps, but if you have two people playing the same agent list, the person with the better skill level is probably going to win, luck aside. Other than that, I think Infernity has been doing really well. I don't remember when exactly it popped up, but it's had a pretty good showing. It definitely was not considered a real deck in 2023, so this is kind of a big deal. It is one of those decks that's more of a matchup dependent thing. I can't understand why it wouldn't beat plants, but its plants are favored against it. So Hero kind of fell off. I was the only one who was consistently doing well with Hero, and even then, every couple tournaments I'd just scrub out. I think people generally understand that if you're playing Hero, you should be on Tour Guide, which is true for like 20 other decks. And I think using Karma Cut in Hero is correct, like in the main deck, but I haven't really touched the deck much as of late because it just has enough games where you lose because you don't draw enough dice, or you draw a bunch of miracles early on and there's no payoff, or your opponent just has a bunch of Hyperion type monsters and then there's nothing you can do. So it's yeah, Hero's probably the biggest loser, I'd say, of 2024, and Infernity is after Agents. Infernity is the biggest winner. We've also been seeing the Dragon deck, which it's annoyingly good at what it does. Kawakimera Drago is, of course, a phenomenal counter to Agents, and If they don't have a card trooper or a live Jupiter, then they struggle to out it. Being able to consistently drop an Eradicate or Epidemic Virus means that it can just cheese a lot of other matchups like Tech Genus and Hero. Deck Devastation Virus is pretty good into some decks and usually okay into others, and it's basically free the way the deck is built. I don't like seeing the deck in matches, but I think it's cool. It just shouldn't exist in a healthy game. That's the other big one, I'd say. I guess Sabers finally performed well for like the first time ever because people were putting Tour Guide into it. I think that was him now, but I'm not 100% certain. That deck had always underperformed relative to expectations.
I hope it's not gonna be Karma Cat, because that shouldn't be a hot take. But what is your most hot take about the format?
I think the format's reached more or less its apex in terms of new decks, but then again, I wouldn't have expected a lot of new things last year, so it's possible I'll be surprised. I think there's plenty of room for messing around at lower tiers of gameplay, but I don't expect there to be a lot of upsets in terms of decks that win in top large tournaments. We're not going to see, Amazonas top 30-person tournament unless everybody enters with Amazonas, in which case, 100% chance. I think that's inevitable with any format given enough time. Tengu, compared to, say, Edison and earlier formats, was a lot more explored. It was one of the first eras where we had dueling network as opposed to some more primitive means of dueling each other that required some actual tech savvy. And so there was just a lot more time for people to figure things out. There are definitely new decks and old decks have fallen off, but I have trouble seeing anything dramatic changing at this point.
And that ends it for my questions. So, I give the mic to you. Is there anything else that you want to say to me, to the audience, to the format at large?
Yeah, I can't make any promises. I brought up the idea of modified Tengu format featuring some cards from later on because there's so many cards from Zexal and maybe early Arc 5 that feel like they would have a good place in Tengu format, like Diamond Core, obviously, Watt Cobra, various things like that. And I'm firmly of the belief that the the traditional virus cards should never be legal in any format, and that Trap Dust Shoot is incredibly toxic. I also have some strong opinion about the whole idea of limiting a card as opposed to just banning it outright. So, anyway, I brought that up, and there were a lot of people who expressed interest. So, after Worlds, I'm going to be giving a serious look at creating some kind of community around an evolving custom Tengu format that tries to massage a few of its failings into a more pleasing shape. Because I think most of us who play the format regularly really enjoy it like 70% of the time. But then there's just a good chunk of games, especially when it involves agents, where it's just not that fun. Nothing really happens that's interesting. Oh, they dropped multiple chaos or chaos-like monsters and they win. Nothing you can do. So there's a decent chance that we'll have something to do with that sometime in the first half of this year, but I can't make any promises. I hope to have a very competitive Worlds.
And that's all for this time. Don't forget to tune in to yugioh from Zero on Saturday, January 24th for World's coverage.